destiny, and war. So Ramadan is a time of reflecting and understanding and feeling empathy for those people who are in need. So the topic I'm going to talk about today is mental health, to try to understand what happens to a person who has different mental health illnesses, how that person is affected, how that person can have help, and how that person can be perceived by people through stigma. So the issue I'll be talking about today in particular is stigmas on mental illness. Mental problems don't affect just a minimal amount of people in the UK. It actually affects thousands of people in the UK, but not just the people, their families, work colleagues, and society in general get affected. So mental health problems can diversify from personality disorders, eating disorders, sleeping disorders, schizophrenia to depression. Mental health problems may be related to excessive stress due to a particular situation or series of events. For example, with psychosis, that's affected and created because of the stressful situation that they're in, which leads them down a path where they're unsure about their own reality. I'll be talking a little bit more about psychosis and the relations with schizophrenia, but essentially it's due to the mind taking too much that it can't handle. Mental illnesses can be physical as well as emotional and psychological. They can be caused by a reaction to environmental stresses, genetic factors, biochemical imbalances in your brain, or even a combination of these. So let's have a look a little bit about these statistics. They may seem a little daunting, but here we go. 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health problem at some point in their lives. Around 1 in 10 children experience mental health problems. Depression affects 1 in 12 of the whole population. Rates of self-harm in the UK are the highest in Europe at 400 people per 100,000. 450 million people worldwide have a mental health problem. It is important to stress the varieties of these mental health problems. By addressing them, we can become more aware of them, understand how a person acts and behaves, and hopefully gain empathy and sympathy for the way that they are and not feel scared or feel as if they're intimidated by what they see. By educating, you can open people's minds to think, okay, they have these problems and now I understand a little bit more about that person and I'm not intimidated or scared. I'll explore into a few mental health problems and I will delve into and explain what they are, how they affect people, if it becomes a problem, how and why, and how to combat them. So, one contributing factor to mental health is anger. Anger can contribute to mental health problems and make existing problems worse. Oftentimes when you're angry, it's hard to rationalize what you think. It's hard to control your actions and your thoughts because they're just fueled by anger. If you're in a calm state, you're more likely to make understanding of what's going on around you. Anger is just this emotion that kind of overwhelms you a little bit and it clouds your judgment. If you struggle to manage feelings of anger, it may be very stressful and it can also have a knock-on effect on your self-esteem. Because you think to yourself, as you reflect and look at yourself, you think, oh gosh, I'm being aggressive here, I'm being mean here, and that can damage your self-esteem, and you think to yourself, I'm not a nice person. But all you have to do is just calm yourself and remember you are a good person, and don't let anger fuel you. So there are many problems that can lead from having anger issues. For example, depression, anxiety, eating problems, or self-harm. Anger could also contribute to sleep problems and problems with alcohol and substance misuse. It can also lead to inward aggression. So this is essentially when you tell yourself that you hate yourself, you tell yourself that you're not beautiful, that you're not intelligent. If you channel your anger towards yourself in a negative way, it can affect the way you perceive yourself, because you look at yourself and, like I said, you think, I've done this terrible deed, I've acted this way, I'm not intelligent, not I'm beautiful. It can make yourself hate yourself because of all the things you tell yourself because of anger. Anger can also be a symptom of health problems. For example, if you experience borderline personality disorder or BPD or other personality disorders, psychosis or paranoia, this can often make you feel angry, and it's sometimes hard to cope with angry feelings in this instance. Sometimes when you have personality disorders or psychosis or even paranoia, you get stressed and you start questioning, God, why have you done this to me? It's farther than your comprehension, but you question it sometimes and you get angry thinking, this is injustice, why should I go through this horrible patch in my life? We just have to remember that God has got a plan for everyone, and God's not going to give you more than you can't handle. So what is it? Anger is a completely natural response. So don't feel guilty or hate yourself for getting angry, because it's a natural response. It's a natural response of when you feel attacked, deceived, frustrated, or even treated unfairly. Everyone gets angry at times. It's just part of being human. It's the way that you cope with it, the way that you help yourself, that is what counts. It's not the way that it damages you, because you need to look forward and onwards and positive and think, anger has done this to me, but I'm going to channel it into something positive. It's also interesting to point out that anger can not always be the bad emotion. Sometimes anger is a mechanism to help yourself. It's a way to identify that things are hurting us. You feel angry when someone's mistreated you because your brain and your mind is telling you this isn't right. And if you have this reaction, you know how to be treated fairly. It motivates us to create change. If something has distressed you or annoyed you, if someone has said something mean, it's going to motivate you a little bit if you channel it positively, so you can create change. So you think, I can do this better, I can do such and such better. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad emotion that detriments you and cripples you. It can motivate you because you want something different in life, something positive. So always look at the positive aspects to motivate you to want to be better and create change. Also, anger is not always a bad thing, because it helps you defend yourself in dangerous situations. Sometimes when you're in a dangerous situation, you get a burst of energy, and this is how you stand up for yourself. If you were shy, inclusive, and reserved, and people were being mean to you, and you just take it, that's not going to be good for you, because you need to move forward and find a way to fix the situation. But if you just if you think of anger as a way of recognizing something's wrong and recognizing that you're treated misfairly, then you can carry on and try and change things, like I said as well. So when is anger a problem? Anger only becomes a problem when it starts to harm you or people around you. This can happen when you regularly express your anger through unhelpful or destructive behaviour. This is only going to make situations worse if you're aggressive, if you're mean, and you don't have any remorse as well. And also, anger can have a negative impact on your overall mental and physical state. Anger makes your body shake, it makes your heart rate raise, it makes you think irrationally. So it can have mental effect as well as physical effect. Another contributing factor to mental health illnesses is taking drugs. All street drugs have some kind of effect on your mental health. They affect the way you see things, your mood, and your behaviour. These effects may be pleasant, but mostly unpleasant. They may be short-lived, the journey and the experience you have with the drug, or maybe you can experience long and lasting effects. In some cases, these effects may be similar to those you experience as part of a mental health problem. They may go away often when the drug is worn out, but sometimes the effect of drugs has a lasting effect. It can make you anxious, it can make you fidgety and a bit irritable, and that's a long-lasting effect of some drugs. For some people, taking street drugs can also lead to a long-term mental health problem, such as depression and schizophrenia. It's really difficult to predict how a person will react to a street drug because people react differently to the same drug at different times or in different situations. So people's reaction may be different depending on the type of drug, whether the drug has been mixed with other substances and what these substances are, the amount you take, the environment or social situation in which you take it. If you're around company that's good for you, or you have around company that's going to be angry and making your experience on that drug negative and horrible and toxic. Another factor as to how it depends how the drug will react in your body is how often you take it, and then your initial mental state. If someone is depressed already and and has maybe mood swings already, taking a drug is just going to amplify this initial mental state. If you have a history of experiencing poor mental health, this may mean you're more likely to experience negative effects if you take street drugs. However, if you have previously not had any mental health problems, you may still develop symptoms of mental health from using these drugs. If you take street drugs a lot or become dependent on them, this can have a negative impact on your day-to-day life. Having too much drugs in your life that are bad for you and having a bad effect can lead to eventual financial problems because you have to take into consideration how much it costs for these drugs, and makes you lazy and foggy and like a sloth, which will knock on effect on your work, and you might not go into work on time. You might not be concentrating at work, so that affects your financial state because you're going to be paid less and your boss is going to be annoyed with your lack of professionalism. Another way it can impact your day-to-day life is problems with education. You can have a foggy brain, you can go to school and not really process and concentrate in the lesson, and you may find that you're daydreaming or you're going on a hallucination, which is going to affect your experience in school. If you have a hallucination in the classroom, that's going to deter you from wanting to go to school. So it can have many effects, and it can affect your education and therefore create a problem. It can also affect your employment. So with regards to employment, it can make you lazy and not want to be motivated to find a work or job. It may start to affect your relationships with people because you may start to act out of character from who you really are because you're on this drug. And that's going to give you anxiety when you're with your friends and your family because they'll notice something about you that's a little off or a little different. And that's going to bring bridges into your relationships. People will stop trusting you because they think you're being dishonest because you're behaving somewhere that's not normal for yourself. And often people find that they mistrust other people if they suddenly act out of character or do something a little bit spontaneous. They think, oh gosh, okay, this person is not who I thought they were. This person is actually really quite aggressive. This is their true colours. It's going to affect people in different relationships and think of you in a different way. Another problem it can affect is your housing. So you may be also lazy and stop doing your house chores. You may stop with your rent because of no money. It can affect housing. It can also affect your self-esteem, and that's something that carries you through your day. If you feel as if you're inadequate or you're a small person, not intelligent, not beautiful, and you carry this with you throughout the day, it's going to affect your actions. The world is what you make of it. If you want to see the world as beautiful, you will see the world as beautiful. if you want to see the world as imperfect, it's got flaws, you'll be nitpicking things during your day. You think, oh, okay, this proves that the world is imperfect. That's similar with self-esteem. If you think you're not good enough, no one's going to think you're good enough. If you're looking out in your day to think of ways to improve your self-esteem, you will eventually improve it. But if you're looking about your day to say, oh, actually, I'm not this, I'm not clever, I'm not successful, all these things, it's all about having a positive outlook. So here are some mental health problems that people may face. The first one I'm going to talk about is bipolar disorder. This is a mental health problem that mainly affects your mood. If you have bipolar disorder, you're likely to experience these sorts of symptoms. So manic or hypermanic episodes, which means feeling very high, very elated, very happy, much more than you are normally. It is sort of like a fluctuation of happiness. And then you have depressive episodes, which is feeling really low. So with the fluctuation, one moment you'll be feeling really happy, another moment you'll be feeling really low, and it will just go up and down and fluctuate, and it's not very stable, and it's very disconcerting for some people. Potentially some psychotic symptoms during manic or depressed episodes. So if you have an episode when you're really depressed, or an episode when you're really happy, it's going to affect your body, and it's going to take a toll on your body because your body will react and think this is doing too much. So both mood and behavioural changes can be a sign and as an indication of someone who has bipolar disorder and experience manic phases or these episodes. There's other ways that you can identify that someone's got bipolar. So they can have extended periods of feeling really happy or outgoing. They could be really irritable, have high agitation, or quite jumpy in their body language and the way that they speak. Talking very fast, jumping from one idea to another idea. Being easily distracted. Increasing goal-directed activities. Restlessness. Little to no sleep for several days in a row, sometimes without even feeling tired. Having an unrealistic belief in your own ability. Behaving impulsively. High-risk behaviours such as spending sprees, drug or alcohol use, and impulsive business investments, and also suicide attempts. These are all the different things a person could potentially have symptoms of to indicate that they have bipolar disorder. And already you can see that you can have empathy for this person, knowing that they're really happy or really sad, instead of feeling confused or in the unknown, not knowing when they're going to be happy, when they're going to be sad. If you understand that this is part of their personality and their mental health, you can accept it and move on, and you can think, I'm not intimidated or uneasy. I understand this person is going through this emotion or this moment, and then you'll have more empathy for that person because you understand what they're going through. And that's the whole point, to understand and empathise with people who have mental health illnesses and not judge them. Another form of mental health is depression. So in its mildest forms, depression can mean just being in low spirits. It doesn't stop you leading a normal life, but it makes it harder to live, and sometimes it feels less worthwhile. At its most severe, major depression, like for example clinical depression, it can be life-threatening because it can make you feel suicidal or simply give up the will to live. Here are some specific forms of depression. So there's seasonal affective disorder. This is seasonal depression, which is related to day length. It usually comes on in the autumn and winter, when days are short and the sun is low in the sky. And it gets better as the days get longer and brighter. So when it's winter, you feel a little sad. When it's summer, you feel more happy and elated. Another form of depression is postnatal depression. Many mothers can have the baby blues soon after the birth of their baby, but it usually passes after a day or two. There's postnatal depression, which is a more serious problem and occur anytime between 2 weeks and 2 years after the birth of the baby. There's also bipolar disorder, which is manic depression. So this is similar to bipolar with the fluctuation of happy and low mood. So with bipolar disorder, manic depression, it's when you have mood swings, and with the depression, it kind of alternates between periods of mania. And when you're in a state of mania and manic, this is when you're in high excitement, and then you may plan and try to carry out overambitious ideas and schemes. And they often have periods of severe depression. Another one that I want to talk to you about, the mental health illness, is schizophrenia. The symptoms of schizophrenia can be disruptive and have an impact on your ability to carry out day-to-day tasks, such as going to work, maintaining relationships with people, caring for yourself or for others. There is so much misinformation about schizophrenia, more than any type of mental health. Misconception is a diagnosis of schizophrenia. Does mean split personality. That's a misconception. Or indicate that they swing widely from being calm to widely from being out of control. This is a misconception. Another misconception is that schizophrenia is a rare condition. This is a misconception because schizophrenia is not real. It's not rare, sorry. The lifetime risk of developing schizophrenia is widely accepted to be around 1 in 100. There is a misconception when people think people with schizophrenia are dangerous. The reality of the situation is, although the delusional thoughts and hallucinations of schizophrenia sometimes leads to violent behaviour, most people with schizophrenia are neither violent or danger to others. Schizophrenia is a brain disorder that affects the way the person behaves, thinks and sees the world. People with schizophrenia often have an altered perception of reality, and this is what psychosis is. When they have an alternate perception of reality because they're hallucinating, they're having auditory hallucinations as well as visual, and they suddenly think that this world is real. But the doctors would say that the rationality behind seeing all these hallucinations and everything that's going on around you is that it's a chemical imbalance, and it's something that your mind, your imagination has manifested, and that it's not real. But that's a scientific opinion, and it's a chemical imbalance, something in your mind, in your brain, that's the neurological signals are off and not really connecting properly. That's the reason why they say it's a chemical imbalance. But there's also different interpretations of what actually goes on, what actually these people suffering from psychosis and schizophrenia are actually experiencing. Is it real? Is it not real? And this is often a question people ask themselves. Am I really experiencing all these entities and things around me? And it's a question that's daunting, and it's hard for people to fathom and swallow who are suffering with schizophrenia and psychosis. They may see things or hear things that other people can't, or they start speaking in confusing ways, or sometimes people with schizophrenia believe that other people are trying to harm them, or they feel like they're being constantly watched. And this can make it so difficult for people to live ordinary lives. And people with schizophrenia may just withdraw from the outside world because they're confused and they're scared. So these are a few mental health illnesses that I've talked about. And I'm going to talk about a few more mental health illnesses in part 2. So stay tuned.
The death of a loved one is a very emotional and challenging time for the family members of the deceased. Al Mu'min Funeral Services have been supporting families across the UK since 2005. Their professional, experienced and quality service ensures the whole process from release from hospital to burial is taken care of respectfully and efficiently. They also specialise in worldwide repatriations, assisting to take loved ones to Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Iraq or anywhere worldwide. almu'minfunerals.co.uk, your trusted funeral service.
Do you have a family member that's passed away and you would like someone to assist you in legal advice? Kenneth Jones Solicitors has been providing legal services for businesses and individuals since 1986. We specialise in probate, Islamic wills and family law. We also offer services in conveyancing, immigration and personal injury. Contact us today on 01902 745 773 or visit us on our website at kenneth-jones.co.uk.
Betsy's Burgers taste flippin' awesome. Betsy's world-famous burgers are coming soon to Wolverhampton and Wednesfield. Prepare for sizzling hot smash burgers, bubbling mac and cheese, and sensational sides. Betsy's is home to undefeated, crispy on the outside and fluffy on the inside fries. Dunk your Betsy's burger in a lava-hot melted cheese and get a load of our loaded fries and mouth-watering cheese-filled onion rings. The king is dead. Long live the queen. Betsy's Burgers, coming flippin' soon. Eurofit Auto Centres, the West Midlands' leading independent auto centre, celebrating 18 years of service, all services, MOT and repairs, with a free collection and drop-off service within Wolverhampton. Book online today at eurofitautocentres.co.uk or call us on 01902 40 40 45 and we'll direct you to your nearest branch. The expert making vehicle repairs simple.
Are you in receipt of benefits and looking for cavity wall or underfloor insulation? Did you know, with Northern Gas Heating, you could get a free boiler with the insulation measure of your choice? Call 0800 083 1000 or go to northerngasheating.com to see if you're eligible. It's a quick and easy assessment. Northern Gas Heating, celebrating over 20 years in the industry. We're proud to be the UK's local central heating company.
Feeling peckish? Treat your taste buds with a range of delicious snacks and flavours of the Far East from Indus. Why not try our range of roasted nuts, dried fruit, Bombay mix and flavoured snacks? Indus by AIB Foods. Available in your local supermarkets and varied retailers. Indus, the world's finest foods. Khan Builders offer a full range of building services, from major rebuilds to small projects, home improvements, kitchen fitting, plastering, bathroom fitting, extensions and much more. We pride ourselves on providing a professional, caring and high quality service and always meet our customers' needs. Contact Khan Builders today on 07813 950 265 for a free quotation from Khan Builders. Pack Continental, your local best halal supermarket in Wolverhampton. Established for over 20 years, we pride ourselves on our fresh vegetables and fresh fruit. We have a variety of spices and lentils. We're also an award-winning Halal Butcher of the Year for 2 consecutive years. We supply excellent quality meat and poultry delivered fresh daily to our store. Visit us today at 1-3 Hunter Street, Wolverhampton, WV6 0QZ, or call 01902 717 792. Open 9am till 8pm Monday to Saturday and 10am till 6pm on Sundays. Do you need planning permission and don't know where to start? Whether you're planning on extending your family home or building a new one, Footprint Design Architects are here for you. With a broad range of experience in residential, commercial and industrial architecture, we pride ourselves in offering a unique, tailored service for all our clients. For more information, visit our website www.footprintdesign.net or contact us at info@footprintdesign.net.
Ramadan's blessed days are the perfect opportunity to reach out to suffering families in the Ummah with our charity. You can do so by donating to one of Ummah Welfare Trust's many projects which are helping our brothers and sisters in Africa, Asia and the Middle East. In these difficult days, charity is one of the best ways to earn Allah's pleasure and protection. To give yours, call 0800 4 0800 11 or visit uwt.org.
This is Ramadan Radio, your local voice, your local Muslim radio. Go to ramadanradiowolves.com and donate to your local mosque.
Welcome part 2 to this episode about mental illness. So continuing on from part 1, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the different mental health illnesses that are out there. There are sleeping disorders, insomnia. This could mean that you have difficulty in falling asleep or getting back to sleep if you wake up in the night. It might manifest in the way you find yourself waking up very early in the morning, and whilst you're waking up very early in the morning, this sleep does not refresh you, and you feel constantly tired. And you might have a disturbed or a light sleep, or wake up and fall back to sleep several times in the night. Oversleeping is also a different mental health illness. It's a very light one, but it's still one. This may impact your daily life, because sometimes when you have chronic oversleeping, studies have shown that this leads to physical problems such as heart disease and diabetes. There's also nightmares and night terrors. Nightmares are intense, frightening dreams that cause you to wake up, sometimes leaving you very, very scared. They are often related to experiences or events in your life. Sometimes people have nightmares when they think of a few ideas before they go to sleep, and whilst they're dreaming, the last ideas that they were thinking prior to sleeping come into their dream. So to kind of try to avoid having a nightmare, you should pray before you go to sleep. Put a nice dua prayer in the background to help you fall asleep. And you'll take all these negative ideas and thoughts out of your mind, and you can dream and sleep peacefully. Night terrors, however, are like nightmares, but they occur during deep sleep. So night terrors cause a deep sense of fear, and your heart rate is increasing and you're sweating. Sometimes you may scream, shout, or cry in your sleep. Often people find it difficult to wake up from night terror, and they're just sort of stuck in that terrified, shaking feeling, and they can't wake up. And sometimes when they wake up in the morning, they have little or hardly any memory of what happened. Nightmares and night terrors can affect the quality of your sleep and can cause general anxiety about falling asleep, which may lead to insomnia. There is also sleep paralysis. This is when you wake up in the night and you cannot move or speak because you are still trying to sleep in your body. Your sleep hormones in your muscles are telling you that you want to stay asleep. There's a part of you that wants to wake up, and there's this kind of push and pull. As you try to wake up, you're stuck into your body. That's how it sometimes feels and how people describe it. So when you're trying to wake up and you feel like you're stuck in your body and you can't wake up, it can last from a couple seconds and to a couple minutes. Although it can't harm you, sleep paralysis can be extremely scary, and it can lead to anxiety about falling back to sleep. Another mental health illness is eating disorders. Bulimia is one of the most common eating disorders. If you experience bulimia, you may find that you eat large amounts of food all in one go, or because you were feeling upset or worried. This is called binging. You may then feel guilty or ashamed after binging, and then you want to get rid of your food that you've eaten, and this is called purging. Another eating disorder is anorexia. This means you don't allow yourself to eat enough food to get the energy and nutrition that you need to stay physically healthy. Sometimes people with anorexia is about slimming and dieting, but it's often connected to a very low self-esteem, negative self-image, and feelings of intense distress. People who have anorexia may look at their mirror, and even though they're quite slim, they perceive that through the mirror they're quite big or fat, and they over-criticize their bodies. Every little sort of pinch of flesh, they say, "Oh my gosh, I'm fat. Oh my gosh, I don't look good in the mirror." To anyone else, they think that they look skinny, but to themselves, they feel that they're quite fat. And it's just this misconstrued perception of what they look like. And it can be down to low self-esteem it can be down to social media that's kind of put poison into young girls' minds to look a certain way, to have a certain way to do their makeup, or there's different certain ways to wear their clothing. This added pressure, this pressure from social media, this pressure is making young girls feel terrible about themselves and wanting to puke their food or not eat their food because they want to look a certain way. And it's a lot of pressure from a young girl seeing all these beautiful women on their social media and thinking, I want to be like this, and yet they're going down negative, destructive paths to attain the beauty that they see. Binge eating disorder means like you can't stop yourself from eating even if you want to. This is sometimes described as having a food addiction or compulsive eating. If you experience binge eating disorder, you may have to come to reliance on food for emotional support or using food to mask difficult feelings. You may indulge in cake or pizza or fatty carb foods because they make you satisfied for a while, but some people who have binge eating disorder can't break from the cycle, and they keep eating and eating to make themselves feel better, and then they feel bad that they're eating so much, and then they want to eat more to make them feel better about that, and it's just a cycle. So, people with mental illnesses suffer in their lives in many ways. Like I said in part 1, this is a bit more of a elaboration. So they suffer in their lives in many ways. Finding work. People with depression and stress may not be able to open up with their boss, and they fear that they might be sacked or forced out of their jobs. It's hard to be in a steady long-term relationship. Someone who has bipolar, for example, finds it hard to communicate and engage on an emotional level. Living in decent housing. Many people might find it difficult and stressful to move into a new home. Moreover, due to their state, they may emulate that into their housing environment by having a messy bedroom or a dirty, untidy house. Sometimes your room can be a really good indication of the person's personality and the person's organisation and the person's mental health. If a room is completely shattered, there's nothing organised in the drawers, there's food packaging, there's rubbish, it shows that the person's not going through a good time or not organised and not finding a way to improve themselves. They're just living in their own dirt. It can also affect other people's lives by socially being included in mainstream society. People with ADHD find it really hard to mesh with others, and they can encounter problems like loneliness, and they may slip into a state of depression where it's hard to break free, hence it's hindering their interaction. People with ADHD are really sharp and really clever, but they have so much stimuli going around them. It's like whizzing around them, so many different stimuli that wakes up their mind that they don't know which one to concentrate on. There's just so much going on. And for a person with ADHD, and when you're in a social setting and you're with a crowd of people, this ADHD is going to kick in, and then all the stimuli of people around them, the room, the smell, everything. People with ADHD pick up on this, and they just don't know what to concentrate on because there's so much going on. That's why when they take medication, it sedates them a little bit and makes them calm down and less irritable. Let's talk a little bit about stigma about mental health illnesses. There is a stigma in media and different forms of entertainment like movies, television shows, books, magazine, news. People perceive that victims of mental illness are violent, hard to socialise with, and verging on being socially awkward and even stupid. Due to these inaccurate portrayals of people with mental illnesses, some people believe that mental illnesses sufferers should be shunned away from society. The media has a really big part to play in the stigmatization of mental illness. For better or worse, the media shapes our ideas, inevitably, and it helps us understand our world. For example, on the news or social media, to put ideas out, like Twitter. Media and social media have helped us to understand the world around us, and so people can rely on mental social media and media to kind of morph and shape what they think of the world. So if a person, say example, in a movie has schizophrenia, people who are uneducated about it, don't know anyone who has schizophrenia in their lives, may think that there's an accurate portrayal of what they see in the movie, which is not actually how people behave who have schizophrenia. For example, the movie Split, it shows the person with schizophrenia with quite aggressive and quite unstable behaviour, and he traps and kidnaps these girls, and it victimizes them and demonizes people with schizophrenia. People watching this on the TV may think, oh gosh, maybe this is somewhat accurate, but it's not. On television and in film, as well as in news reporting, there's this sort of dialogue and emphasis of people with mental health illnesses being seen as the other or separate from society. In movies, they're often portrayed as the unemployed, helpless, without family or friends, roots or history. An example of stigma in the movie called Shutter Island. A bipolar character in the movie drowns her children and gets shot by her husband, who goes mad himself. Since the film is set in 1950s, the mental health system is depicted as so broken, and it kind of aggravates the mental conditions worse. Another movie is Sucker Punch. The film takes place in a asylum brothel where the mental health patients have high fantasies about killing staff. And these mental health patients are shown to be dishevelled, to be aggressive, and to have ideas and fantasies about killing. And it has a lot of imagery connecting to mental illness, showing that they're helpless, that they're trying to escape, there's sexual exploitation. And this may be an inaccurate portrayal of people who have mental health problems. They are not sort of high hysteria or high aggravation. They're portrayed like this, but is that really the reality of some people who have mental health problems? So I believe that words have power. They have power to hurt people, to soothe people, to honour people, to inform, to misinform. And the media uses language that creates myths and stereotypes regarding mental health illnesses, and I feel sometimes it promotes fear in the community. Provocative newspaper headlines such as "Terror, mentally ill threaten games." This was an actual headline. I repeat it: "Terror, mentally ill threaten games." And this kind of newspaper headline shows that there could be a potential safety issue amongst the society because of mental health problems. People who suffer mental health problems are going to make it unsafe for people, and it kind of is an irrationality of what people actually think about mental health illnesses. So the effects of the stigma, what can that impact on a person who has mental health problems? With the stigma of mental health problems, people thinking that you are a certain way because what they see on the media, their social media, it can affect someone's recovery process and stop them from trying to get help because they may feel judged by the counsellors or therapists, or judged by their family and friends, thinking that they're going to see them as villainous and demonized, and that maybe stop them from getting help because they think they're going to get rejected for help, and they may feel really anxious and ashamed and thinking that people will judge them a certain way. They may hide the fact that they have a mental health problem. They just want to blend with the society and not be treated as different. People with serious mental health illnesses may find difficulty over their lifetime to secure education and employment because of the stigma and discrimination in the workplace. And obviously it's a knock-on effect on their income, and some people with serious mental illness drift into poverty, because they drift into homelessness because they don't have the help that they have needed for so long because of the stigma, which has led them down a dark path, led them down a path where they can't get a job because of the internal blockage to seek help. So what is stigma? It's basically a term conveying deep shame for a member of a group that is devalued by mainstream society. In a recent survey from Time to Change, 9 in 10 people reported experiencing stigma from others as a result of their mental health problem. They describe stigma as feeling isolated, shamed, misunderstood, criticized, and demeaned. You can help tackle the stigma around mental illnesses by learning more about the mental health illnesses and trying to broaden your understanding of what it is. Listening to other people's experiences, be empathetic to what's going on within their lives, take time to understand them and process what's going on, and have an open mind to think, okay, I don't really understand this right now, but I appreciate you being honest and I want to learn more. Being open about mental health. Another way to tackle the stigma is just remember that mental illness is just one small aspect of that person. It doesn't define them, and they're not out of control, and their mental illnesses do not define them. They have other things that they can contribute to society. With regards to the historical aspect, stigma came about medieval times. So people with psychiatric illnesses thought that there was something supernatural going on. With regards to the history of those suffering were early human skulls dating from thousands of years ago. They showed evidence of circular holes bored into their skull. The hole was created from other people piercing through their head with instruments to think that they will release evil spirits from their heads. Hundreds and thousands of women in Europe were labelled as witches from later than 1400s through the next several centuries. Many appear to have suffering from mental health disorders. And what was their treatment of these so-called witches? The treatment was that they were tortured and burned at the stake. In the Renaissance, there were forms of care, which includes chains and stocks, as whippings and beatings and overcrowded conditions, different from the treatment of the normal patients, or quotation normal. Stigmas occur worldwide. In India, with mental health, people might be left outside and chained to stakes as supposedly they were somehow demented. In Japan, sufferers are relegated lifetimes of silence. In Turkey, in the mental health hospitals, there are electric shock treatments used without anesthesia as punishment, even for children. Half the people with mental disorders in Western nations fail to seek treatment or cannot even get care. In the third world, the rate is closer to 90%. So what can a person do to get help for their mental health problem? Your family doctor is one. You can rule out any other causes for your symptoms, prescribe medications, do some limited counselling and refer you to a psychiatric help or special services. For many people, family doctors are the main source of professional support for managing an mental illness because they have so much information and resources at their disposal, and it's a great place to start getting help. Then you have psychiatrists. They're doctors specially trained in diagnosing and treating mental illnesses. They are covered under BC's Medical Services Plan MSP, but you'll need a referral from your family doctor or mental health to see one. As with doctors, they can prescribe medications, and some psychiatrists can do counselling. So now there's also counselling, which includes psychologists, clinical counsellors, and social workers. These professionals can help diagnose mental health problems and provide you counselling that can look at your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviour. Counsellors are not doctors, so they can't prescribe medication. Counselling is usually not covered by MSP unless it's through a hospital program or mental health team. You may also be able to access low-cost counselling programs in your community. There are a number of ways to support children and help adjust to living with someone with mental health illnesses. So, to help yourself with mental health illness, make time. Family life is about more than illness. You want to make sure your children feel safe and secure, and have a little disruption in their everyday routine as possible. If you feel like your child has a problem, talk about your feelings and encourage your children to share theirs. Don't try to pretend everything is fine when it's not. Children can easily sense when things aren't right. Encourage your child or your teenager, your son and daughter, to talk about their fears, their guilt, and their confusion. Help them to understand what's going on within them and help them to vent any emotions that are lingering and manifesting in their heart. You're their parent and you want to have the best for them, the best interest for them. Have a heart-to-heart with them and help understand yourself what the person is going through, and help the child or the teenager understand what they're going through. And it's a partnership, it's a community to help each other through it. Provide them with age-appropriate information. So you can talk to your very young children and tell them basically what's happening. Or if you prefer to choose a different parental style, you can just say to the child, you're a little bit different to other kids, but that doesn't mean you're not beautiful or you're not great and you're not lovely. It's up to your parenting tactic if you want to tell them you have a problem, or you could tell them you're perfect the way you are, just so when they're young, they're in their innocence. But it's relative and subjective to parenting style there. Provide a safety out network. Provide a list of names and telephone numbers. Start getting a list of different people you can contact. So if something goes wrong in an emergency, you can find these contact details and call the necessary person to help whatever is going on in that instance. You may have to explain to your child what's going to happen in the emergency to help them feel comfortable and relaxed if something is going wrong. Maybe the child doesn't see it themselves, but you as a parent see it. If something is going wrong, just remember to remain relaxed, because if you're agitated and you're scared, you're not going to be able to think rationally. So you try to relax and trying to understand what's going on. Talk to your child, understand what's going on in their mind, and that will ease your stress and anxiety about the situation. So thank you so much for listening to this show about mental health. I hope it's educated and helped you understand a little bit more about what a person goes through, and hopefully it has had a positive impact. So thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.